Welcome back. Our investigation takes us next to Pennsylvania with an earmark scandal that began more than 10 years ago.
Joe Udicek, like most of the men in the fading coal towns of northeastern Pennsylvania, works with his hands and is proud of it.
We're a coal mining industry. We're trying to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps.
74-year-old Udicek has lived here all his life. For more than 40 years, he's worked in construction, operating heavy equipment and managing development sites. In the late 1970s, Joe met Paul Kanjorski, who was a local attorney, and they became instant friends. He later supported Kanjorski, a Democrat who first ran for Congress in 1982, unsuccessfully.
Paul Kanjorski was, I thought, a personal friend. I thought I was a part of the family. And I thought his ideas were great.
That's why in 1984, when Kanjorski ran a second time, Udicek and his wife again worked on his campaign. After Kanjorski won, he personally thanked them in this note, quote, "No letter or writing can possibly express my appreciation for your limitless help and loyalty." And Kanjorski eventually rewarded Udicek with more than words of thanks. In 1996, he recommended Udicek for a job running the Regional Equipment Center, a nonprofit company which took surplus government construction equipment, repaired it, and completed reclamation projects for the community, like these ballparks and soccer fields.
Who started that nonprofit?
That was a nonprofit started by Congressman Paul Kanjorski.
I've been listening to
Joe believes the idea behind the program was good and says by bringing it to his area, Congressman Kanjorski helped his constituents.
Did you think he was honest and ethical?
Absolutely. Thought that this guy was the best thing that ever happened to northeastern Pennsylvania.
But Joe's view of Kanjorski would change 2 years later, with $1.1 million worth of federal money that the congressman helped the Regional Equipment Center receive in 1998. That $1.1 million, taxpayer money, was funding for a program that would use water jet technology to pulverize materials like tires into fine particles for environmental cleanup. It could also be used to mine the area's coal supply. That sounded like a reasonable use of taxpayer money to Udicek.
But there was a hitch.
Absolutely.
What happened next would end his longtime friendship with Kanjorski. Udicek has never told his story on television before.
The money was put in our bank account. Then the congressman came to me and said, "Listen, you don't have enough expertise to do this project." And I agreed. I said, absolutely.
For years,
but the congressman had a solution.
He said, "Don't worry about it. I've got a company I want you to partner with. I'll send them in to see you." I said, "Fine." The next day, Peter Kanjorski came to my office with a contract.
The nephew of the congressman.
The nephew of the congressman. And he's telling me about a new company that's being formed. And I said to him, "Who owns this company?" He said, "Well, I own part of it, and we owned part of it." I said, "Not me. You get out of this office," I said, "and take them papers, because the Regional Equipment Center is not going to perform anything like that."
Why?
Well, I thought just because they were family members of the congressman, it didn't look right.
How much did he want you to use for the companies connected to his family members?
All of it.
All of it?
All of it.
Every single penny?
Every single penny.
Taxpayer monies that would go right into the pockets of the congressman's family?
Absolutely.
Udicek convened the other directors of the Regional Equipment Center for an emergency board meeting, and in what may be a first, actually voted not to accept over $1 million from the U.S. government. Udicek says Kanjorski was livid and angrily told the board they were making him look bad by not taking the money.
The congressman was adamant that we were going to do this.
Was he bullying you?
Well, you know, yeah, he thinks he could bully somebody, and he thought he could bully me. But we thought it was wrong, we thought it was immoral, and we just wouldn't do it.
Joe says it was then that Congressman Kanjorski followed him out of the meeting and stunned him by stating the true motivation.
He said, "You're telling me I can't take care of my family?" He said, "Well, I'm telling you it's going to be done, and it's going to be done with you or without you. And I'll just bury you, I'll destroy you, but this is going to be done."
That's right. Yudichek says the congressman threatened to bury him. But Yudichek didn't back down. In fact, he took the unprecedented step of writing this letter, forcing the government to take back the money.
We just turned the money back to the federal government. Absolutely refused.
But the next time, Kanjorski would cut out the middleman and direct the money right to his family. And there would be a lot more than $1.1 million involved.
Coming up, the Kanjorskis get your money. And just wait till you hear what they did with it. We now return to the story of Congressman Paul Kanjorski of northeastern Pennsylvania. Once a good friend, Joe Yudichek, says Kanjorski flat out told him he intended to use earmarks to take care of his own family. And that was just the beginning.
I tried to stop them in the beginning when with the initial $1.1 million. They wouldn't take my advice. Went on to get $9 million more, and I thought that was the worst thing that ever happened.
This is Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, devastated by flood and decades of economic hardship. An investment here of $10 million could have had a huge impact. But when its congressman wrangled that very amount right from the taxpayers, it didn't go to Main Street or redevelopment. Instead, it went to a company run by the congressman's family members. In 1998, Kanjorski's relatives incorporated a for-profit company called Cornerstone Technologies. For the next 4 years, it was funded by those millions in earmarks. 4 nephews and his daughter were either owners and/or board members. None were available for comment. The company first rented space in this building. Who co-owned the property? Congressman Kanjorski, whose rent check went directly from taxpayer wallets to his own. It was touted as a company that might help turn around desperate coal towns and make them prosperous by finding new uses for anthracite coal. But instead of a company geared up to meet a scientific challenge run by men who knew how to turn ideas into products,
it was clear that these guys were clueless.
Harold Shobert, head of Penn State's respected Energy Institute and a leading expert on anthracite coal, still shakes his head when he recalls getting involved with the company.
It was sort of like trying to collaborate with the cast of Looney Tunes. They were just really bad. I mean, even things like, how do we order chemicals? Well, for heaven's sake, guys. I began to believe intuitively that there was something very seriously wrong with the way that company was proceeding.
What was it that made you suspicious?
There were a number of things.
Like when Shobert's people went to inspect Cornerstone's facility and were turned away.
They said, no, you can't go in because when the mill is running, it's so noisy, it could be injurious to your hearing. Well, the person noticed that A, Cornerstone people were going in and out of the room not wearing hearing protection themselves, and B, when they opened the door, you couldn't hear anything. So there was obviously nothing running.
We asked Congressman Kanjorski to speak with us on camera. He declined, but he offered to answer our questions via email. We sent him a list of 22. Never got any answers. But shortly before this broadcast, he sent us a statement saying, "This is a political attack by the Republican machine and nothing more." In the end, Cornerstone went under, filing for bankruptcy in September 2006. And just last March, a bankruptcy trustee ruled that Cornerstone will not have to pay a penny of the $1.34 million it owes to creditors due to a lack of assets. That comes as no surprise to Joe Yudichek.
It was something that was conceived just for that family. And now it's bankrupt. The money's all gone, sucked up by the Kanjorskis.